Dear students and working accountants, welcome to my Smart Tally Train YouTube channel. My name is Baburao from Hyderabad. So in the last few days, I was not able to upload videos due to some problems. Now, hereafter, I will upload videos on different topics. Okay. And the today's video is very important to everyone. Everyone using the tally. That means every businessman. This is very important. So in the tally prime, the latest version we are using is 4.0. But now another latest updated version is released. That is 4.1. Is 4.1. In this, two additional features are added. One is reports and all the formality reports relating to MSME payments, which is recently introduced and updated by the government under the Income Tax Act. And another one, details related to the supply through e-commerce operators, the details, reports, everything. These two additional features are introduced in release 4.1 in Tally Prime. So before that, we have to learn about the MSME payments. What is that MSME payment? We'll say, see here, every person who is purchasing from the creditors, and the customers will pay the money whenever they like. Even though there is some credit period is allowed, they can pay at any time. So now newly introduced section is 43BH. So already there was one section in Income Tax Act, that is section 43B. Under that, all the expenses will be allowed when the return is filed. We are calculating the total income to pay the tax. All the expenses only on paid in cash, paid only, that is only on payment basis, they are allowed. If they are not paid, they are not allowed as expenses. They used to be disallowed. But that can be paid not only in the financial year, but in the next financial year, that is the assessment year. Before filing the return of income or the due date for filing the return of income, which is earlier, that is that due date will be there. So before that, you have to pay the money, or if you file the return before the filing of return, because in the return they will allow the expense or disallow the expense. That is why. So the amount is to be paid. So in this case, so these customers may pay to the creditors or the suppliers at any time till the return is filed. So they used to take lot of time. So in this case, the suppliers, that is the sellers, the suppliers face lots of problems for not getting the money. They will face some problems related with the what you call working capital. So mostly in this creditors, those registered under MSME Act, that is Micro, Small, Medium Enterprise Development Act. Under this, that is simply called as MSME Act. Under the MSME Act, who are all the registered, in those cases, this micro and small or very small, went for very small customers, that is very small suppliers. That is, these two enterprises are very small, and the other one, third one is medium. The medium is a little bit more. So in this case, particularly for micro and small enterprises, this is giving a lot of problem, because when the customers pay after a long time, so these people face lot of problem for with the working capital. Sometimes they used to close down because many people are not paying, so they cannot afford to spend money and manufacture the goods and supply the goods. That is why they used to face lot of problems. So in order to mitigate the hardship, the problem faced by the micro and small enterprises, the government has introduced one clause in section 43B. It's called 43BH, class H, because under 43B they can pay before the filing of return the next year. So, but this H is introduced and fixed a certain date of semi-nautical, certain date, the duration, they fixed. So within the time limit, they fixed. So within the time limit, they had to pay. That is the thing made. So in this case, micro and small, what is the meaning of micro, small and medium enterprises? So here, so actually the definition is under the micro MSMD Act, MSME Act 2006, under the Act, what is the definition is? So these three cases, the definition, there are two limits given. One is investment in plant and machinery. So even service providers also manufacturers, they will manufacture with plant and machinery. Even in the case of service providers also, they may purchase some machinery, means like heavy machinery, computers, some other things like that. So all these assets they may purchase. So that is also taken into account, and that includes the plant and machinery. So invest in plant and machinery, and another one is turnover limit. So there are two limits: investment limit and turnover limit. So in this case, if the invest limit is up to 1 crore, that is not more than 1 crore, and invest limit is in the last year investment. Turnover limit in the last year turnover is the limit is 5 crores. So investment is not more than 1 crore, and in the last year the turnover is not 5 crores. This case, this can be called, this is called as micro enterprise. So in the case of next one, small enterprise, the investment limit in plant and machinery is 10 crores, and the last year turnover limit, that is turnover of the last year, the limit is 50 crores. So if the investment is not than more than 10 crores and the last year turnover is not more than 50 crores, then it is called as small enterprise. The third one is, compared to these two, it is a some large scale. The medium enterprise is actually investment in plant is 50 crores, not more than 50 crores, and last year turnover is not more than 250 crores. Compared to these two, this is a little big. That's why, so in this section 43BH, only these two, micro and small enterprises are covered and the medium enterprises omitted. That is, this section is applicable only in the case of the suppliers are either micro enterprise or small enterprise. In these two cases only, this section is applicable. That means anyone who purchased goods or services from any supplier who is registered under this act, and they come under not medium, they come under micro or small enterprise, then only this is applicable. So in this case, if the customers, if anyone have any balance outstanding or amount payable for purchasing the goods or services, so that is to be paid within a particular period. Okay, in this case also, this medium and then micro and small institutions also, small enterprises also, the suppliers, that is goods purchased, goods or services purchased. So for the goods, only manufacturers are concerned. That is micro or small enterprise. In the case of purchasing the goods, it applies to manufacturer only. If you purchase goods from a trader who is a wholesaler or retailer, from a trader, then this section is not applicable. This section is applicable for purchasing the goods. In the case of goods, only the manufacturer. So purchase of goods from manufacturer and purchasing the services from service provider. In these two cases only, this section is available. This section is applicable for micro and small enterprises. If the micro registered under micro or micro and small enterprises, it is registered, but the supplier is a trader, wholesaler or retail, then this section is available, not applicable. So applicable to only these two enterprises, micro and small enterprises, and that also manufacturers and service providers. In the case of traders, it is not applicable, and in the case of medium enterprise, this section is not applicable. 43B. Okay, so under this section, time limit is fixed. So for payment of the amount, that is, if there is there may be some agreement between the seller and the buyer, or there may not be any agreement. If there is no agreement at all, there is no agreement regarding the time of payment, that is regarding the credit period. If there is no agreement, then the time limit is 15 days. So the buyer has to pay the amount due to the supplier within 15 days. If there is no agreement, there is no agreement 15 days. If there is agreement, written agreement means if there may be a written agreement on the paper or stamp paper, it is taken as written agreement. And also sometimes the suppliers in the invoice in the bottom, they will mention the terms and conditions. In the terms and conditions also, if the time for payment of the period for payment, that is the duration in which, that is the time within which the payment is to be made. If that is mentioned in the invoice also, it is taken as agreement. So in the case of agreement, if there is agreement, written agreement, or mentioned in the invoice, in such case, the maximum time is 45 days. That means if the agreement period is within 45 days, that period is to be taken, not 45 days. That is to be taken. If the agreement period is more than 45 days, then the maximum limit is 45 days. If the agreement is 30 days, 30 days to be taken. If it is 40 days, 40 days is taken. If it is 45 days, okay, 45 days taken. Suppose if it is 50 days or 60 days, then only maximum 45 days limit is to be taken to pay the money. This is given under section, this time limit is prescribed under section 15 of the MSME Act, means Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Development Act 2000. Under this act, this is fixed. Okay, and then this section is introduced by the government in the Finance Act 2023. That means from 1st April 23, this rule is applicable. So from 1st April 23 means financial year will be 23-24, already finished by March. So 1st April 23, it is introduced. It is effective means it is effective from 23-24 financial year. So the financial year has gone. So it in this financial year, in the financial year, and again next financial year like that, in the financial year, it is introduced. So the first financial year is 23-24 after introduction of this. And in this case, how we take. And one more thing is, any organization of the supplier registered under the MSME Act, it is registered means they will get a certificate and they will get the MSME number. They will get the MSME registration number. They will get that registration number is called as Udyam registration number. MSME registration, or also it is also called Udyam registration. The number looks like this. So MSME registration number looks like Udyam dash the state HR, it is Tamil Nadu, EN, Andhra Pradesh, AP, Telangana, TS, like that, 2 digits, state, and the next 2 numerical digits, it indicates the month. So the month in which it is registered, that is the month, and then one, there are 7 digits. These 7 digits, they are called as the actual number. So Udyam, HR, state, Udyam is the MSME registration, Udyam, HR, month, and the number. So it looks like this. Totally, these are 5, including the hyphen also 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus 17, plus 7. Total 19 numbers. Total 19 numbers is the registration number. So registration number contains registration number contains 19 digits. Registration number contains 19 digits. So I'll give it here. So registration number contains 19 digits. 19 digits. So this is the number. So we will use it later. I will show you what is the necessity of use of that. Okay. Now, so in this case, if the payment is not made, and one more thing is, in this case, in the case of micro and small also, the maximum limit is given 5 crores for the micro and 50 crores for the small enterprise. That is the turnover limit. But there is some minimum also there prescribed. This is the maximum. So in this case, 2 crores or 3 crores, the minimum limit. Below that, if the turnover is below these amounts, then also this is not applicable. This is not applicable. This act is not applicable. This section is not applicable. That is, 2 crores, 3 crores means the business which is doing is called as digital, non-digital, others. Digital means if the enterprise is dealing with the business dealing, dealing with cash, that is cash business, not more than 5%, 10%, not more than 10% of the total turnover, then that means about 10%, they accept only digital payments. In such case, it is called as digital business. If they are accepting more in cash, then it is called as non-digital. So in the case of digital, 3 crores is the minimum limit and 2 crores is the, for non-digital, 2 crores the limit. If the turnover is below these two also, this is not applicable. This section is not applicable. Okay, leave it. Now, if the amount is not paid within these days, 15 days without agreement, there is no agreement. 45 days if there is agreement. If it is not paid, then what will happen? So in this case, if the amount is not paid within those days, within the time period, within the, it's called as due date. After this completing these days, that is the date is called as due date. So before the due date, the amount is not paid, the customer has to pay interest to the supplier, even though the supplier don't ask for interest. Definitely he has to calculate and he has to pay the interest definitely. That interest is to be paid at the rate of the Reserve Bank will prescribe the interest rate. So this interest is to be paid for the late payment for the time of date. That is, what is the number of days or months? What is the delay period? Delayed period after the due date. For the delay period, interest is to be calculated triple the rate of the Reserve Bank. So the Reserve Bank will declare the interest rate and these people have to pay triple the rate. If the interest rate is by the Reserve Bank is 5%, so interest is to be paid to the MSME at 15%, triple. If the interest rate is 7%, it is to be paid 21%. If it is 8%, 24%. That is triple the interest rate prescribed by the Reserve Bank is to be paid. And more thing, so in addition to the interest paid, if the amount is not paid within the financial year, so if it is paid before the due date, no problem. If it is paid after the due date, interest before the due date means no interest. After the due date amount is paid, interest is to be calculated, and also if it is paid within the financial year, then only interest is charged. There is no other problem. So before the due date, 15 days, that is that. Before the due date, if it is paid, no interest. If it is not paid before the due date, on the late period, interest is to be paid. Okay. But whether it may be it is before the due date or after the due date, within the financial year, that is 31st of March, if it is paid, only the interest to be paid, there is no other problem. If it is not paid, even after the due date, if it is not paid within the financial year, that is 31st March of every year. If it is not paid within the financial year, in that case, within the financial year means it is paid in the next financial year. Okay, so within the financial year, if it is paid, it's okay. Only interest is changed. Interest is to be paid. If it is paid, not paid within the financial year, then the purchases amount or the service purchase of service means expense. The purchase or expense amount that will be debited, that will be debited in the profit and loss account. Purchases, services, expenses, everything. So these purchases and the expenses which are debited in the profit and loss account, they will be disallowed. Disallowed means they will be not allowed in the as expense. In such case, it will be added to the profit. It will be added to the profit. Then profit will go up and we have to pay the income tax on the higher income because income increases. So if it is disallowed, added to the profit means our income will increase. So on the increased income, we have to pay income tax. Okay. And one more thing, here is one thing here. If it is not paid within the due date, so if it is paid after the due date, interest will be paid and not paid within the financial year, that is disallowed. But even after the financial year, that is in the next financial year also, there is some due date because the transaction took place in the month of March. So if there is agreement, 45 days limit is there. So in the month of March, if the purchase is made, so up to, so March that 30 days, that is first or something, in the March, and in the next month, 15th of April or later. So that will be the due date after 45 days. If still there is a due date is not expired, so even in the next financial year, if it is paid within the due date, there is maximum 31st March we purchased. Then 45 days means April 30 days, May 15th. That will be the maximum period. So if it is not paid as per the purchase date, not exactly that date. So before 15th, that is what is the actual due date up to 15th May. So within that date, if it is paid, even if it is next financial year, because it is paid within the due date only, because it is purchased in the month, that transaction took place in the month of March. That means 45 days means it will go into the next year. So in the next year also, if it is paid within the due date, even if it is next year, then for the current year, financial year, that because the current year, it will be allowed, it will not be disallowed. So the due date in the next financial is also expired, then it will be disallowed and added to the profit. Understand this here? So it is to be paid within the financial year, then there is no problem. If you go beyond the financial year, even still there is the due date. So till the due date even in the next financial year, nothing will happen. That will not be disallowed. After the due date in the next financial year also has expired, then the amount will be disallowed. Disallowed added to the profit. So it's not paid. So it is paid in the next financial year. Okay. So in the next financial year, when it is paid, so in the next financial year, again the same thing will be allowed, it will be added to the, it will be reduced from the profit. But the problem is, we have to pay at the higher rate. For example, if the profit is added, that is the expense of purchase is added to the profit means income will increase. So it may increase and it may go to, there will be some slabs. So if the slab increases, we have to pay more interest, more income tax. So next year, paying the income tax at a higher rate now and getting the exemption and deduction in the next financial year. Suppose if the income is less, so the slab rate will be less. So in that case, we will get the income tax benefit at a lower rate. So it will be a problem. That is why everybody has to follow these rules to save the tax. Understand? So this is about the section 43BH. Will be paid within the due date, is not paid within the due date. Interest at the rate of triple the rate of the Reserve Bank is to be paid till the financial year ending. After the financial year ending, it is not paid, then the purchase or expenses will be disallowed. If still there is due date even after the financial year, so till the end of the due date in the next financial year also, so it will not be disallowed. It will not be allowed. If it is paid within the due date, even in the next financial year, if it is paid, it will not be disallowed, it will be allowed. And even after the expiry of the due date in the next financial, also, if it is paid, then this year, this financial year, the profit, the expense will be disallowed. It will be added by the auditor will add, he will prepare the statement of income in that. So you will prepare in the next financial year only. 31st March is over. And in the next financial year, he will make the auditing and all things he will do, and he will find out the profit. So he will add back the profit to before the return is filed. So there's that. So we have to pay tax at a higher rate. For example, I'll give one example. Say from 1st April. So if it is not paid as per the above type limits, purchase or expense cannot be claimed, that is disallowed and added to the profit, and tax is to be paid on the total income. For example, the profit is 25 lakhs. The profit is 25 lakhs. The purchase amount is 5 lakhs. So if the due date has expired before the expiry of the financial year. If it is expired, it is to be paid before the financial year. It is not expired till the expiry of the due date in the next 5 years, so we can pay no problem. But If it is the due date is expired, means we have to pay before the expiry of before the end of the financial year. Otherwise, it will be added. Suppose the due date is expired. If it is not paid before 31st March, then the purchase of 5 lakhs will be added back to the profit. Then total profit will be 30 lakhs. So in this case, you have to pay the income tax on 30 lakhs plus after the due date, what is the delay till the end of the financial year in this case? That will be again interest is to be paid. But I tell you, so this will be added back to the profit, the purchase or expense, and it will be allowed in the next financial year when it is paid. Okay. But the interest for the late payment, we debit in the financial year, profit and loss account. But the interest will not be allowed. That will be disallowed. So this will be disallowed first. So when it is paid in the next financial year, again it will be allowed. It will be deducted. Deduction is allowed for the purchases and expenses. But the interest paid for the late payment, the interest paid will be debited to the profit and loss account, but the interest will not be allowed as a deduction. It will not be allowed. So it will be definitely added back to the profit. Only the purchase or expense amount will be disallowed if available. If it is to be done, it will be disallowed, again allowed in the next financial year. But the interest will not be allowed as a deduction. It will be added back to the profit. So it means the amount disallowed, excluding GST means in the profit and loss account. In the profit and loss account, either the expense or the purchase, we enter only the taxable value. GST will be entered in GST account, GST ledger. That is why in the profit and loss account, we enter only the purchases, we enter only the taxable value in the purchase account. Expenses, we enter all the services, we enter only the taxable value. So excluding GST means taxable value is disallowed in the year not paid, but it can be claimed in the year in which the payment is made. In the next financial year, when the payment is made, it will be allowed. Okay, I will tell you example, one thing. This example will take up, and after that, I told you already, interest is to be paid triple the rate specified by the RBI. Okay, and one more thing is, the interest is to be paid for the delayed payment, but it is monthly, it is to be compounded monthly. If the delayed payment is less than a month, it's okay. If it is more than a month, so after 1 month, the interest will be compounded. So the amount due less the interest will be added back, and the total amount again next month, this interest is to be calculated. It is compounded monthly. The interest is to be compounded monthly, and interest is debited. The interest on late payment cannot be claimed as expenses, as expenditure in the profit and loss account. So when you enter the interest paid in the profit and loss account, you debit, that will not be allowed. This purchase of goods or services, that is expenses, they will be disallowed if you not paid within the due date or within the financial year. Disallowed, but when it is paid in the next financial year, again it will be allowed. But the interest will never be allowed. It will be disallowed even in the next financial year when it is paid. Then also the late fees interest will not be allowed. Okay, and then in this case, how this MSME is available, I told you now, this section 43BH is applicable. So in some cases, in 6 cases, already some we covered, I'll tell you. In 6 cases, this section is not applicable. In 6 cases, this section is not applicable. That is, we need not pay within 15 days without agreement, or within 45 days. Within 45 days, if there is agreement. So this rule is not applicable in 6 cases. First, number 1 is we are purchasing goods. Goods are services only. If you purchase fixed assets or capital, you purchase machinery, you purchase motorcycle, you purchase any electrical fittings or any stationery, or any furniture or any capital asset or fixed asset we purchase, this is not applicable. This is applicable for only goods and services. That is, service means expense. Goods and expenses only. Okay. And I told you already, manufacturer and service provider only, but not trader. Trader means wholesale or retailer, purchasing goods and selling goods. Manufacturer means you will manufacture the goods. Service provider means you will provide service without goods. So in this case, this is not applicable. That's also given here. See here. So one is purchase of fixed assets or capital assets. In that case, section 43B H is not applicable. Number two, if the seller or supplier, you can call it a supplier. If the supplier is medium enterprise, I told you this is applicable only for micro and small enterprises. For medium enterprises, this is not, this section is not applicable because medium is a large one. That is why this section is not applicable to medium enterprise. So if it is a medium enterprise, it is not applicable. And also, if the seller is only manufacturer and service provider, then only for the purchase of goods and services, this section is applicable. But if the seller or the supplier is a trader, trader means wholesaler or retailer, then it is not applicable. But in this case, trader also, if the business is in essential sector means agriculture, motor vehicles, in such case, this is applicable, but they will give the code number. It is called as what you call National Industry Classification Code, NIC. They will give NIC code, means National Industries Classification Code they will give. So for the trader, that is wholesaler or retailer, their number will be, so for NIC number, that is National Industrial Classification number, 45, 46, 47. In these two cases, this is not available. That is for the trader, these three numbers will be there. So the three numbers, the traders, does not, this section is not applicable. In the case of trader also, if it is priority, so the trader is by selling agricultural products, agricultural machinery, etc. In such a case, even if it's trader, the number will not be this, number will be different. So it is even if it's trader, in the case of priority sector, it is called. In the case of priority sector like agriculture, any in the motor sector, all these things, then it is applicable. The next one is the buyer is filing ITR under section 44 AD, ADA, and AE. That is, he is filing ITR 4 means only if the supplier, the accounts are to be audited, then only this is applicable. If they are not to be audited, there is no auditing liability. So if they are not audited, they are also paid, that is paying the tax without any books or balance sheet. Presumptive tax, that is they will take the total turnover 6% or 8%, depending on the business, that will be paid. There will be no actual profit enhancement of this thing. It is called a presumptive tax. And if they are sole trader or something, individual, the auditing is not required. So they are covered under these sections. They file ITR 4. Okay. If they file ITR 4, in that case, also this section is not applicable. So fixed assets not applicable, medium enterprise not applicable, trader not applicable, ITR filed under these sections not applicable. Number 4. Number 5, if the supplier, that is the supplier or the creditor, supplier has not registered under this act. So under the MSME Act, he has not registered, then there will be no liability to pay within that period. So this section will not be applicable. That is, if the supplier is not registered under the MSME Act. And the last one is, if the purchases are made, say this section is introduced with effect from 1st April 23. So services are goods purchased or goods or expenses, goods purchased or expenses from this date after this 1st April 23, only this section is applicable. If there is a balance payable to the creditors for the purchases made before 31st March 23, that means before 1st April 23, that is before 1st April 23, that is last financial year, that is before the financial year 23-24, that is in the last financial year, that will be the opening balance for the financial 23-24 purchased in the last financial year, that is up to not on or before. On or before 31st March, if the purchase or expenses are incurred, then that is the whole year. So the act has not come into force on that date. That is why this section is not applicable. And one more thing here, how do you know whether our supplier is applicable to every businessman? Paying to the creditors, purchasing from suppliers and paying to them. And how do we know whether our supplier is a registered person under the MSME Act, and also whether he is a small enterprise, micro enterprise, small enterprise, or medium enterprise? If it is medium enterprise, it is not applicable. The second is not applicable. In these two cases only, it is applicable if they are registered. So how do you know? Means, first of all, from every creditor from this date, every time whenever you are creating a creditor account, every time we have to, from every creditor, we have to take the certificate from them. So in the certificate number, the activity, that is service or manufacture, or whether it's a service or manufacture or wholesaler or retailer, everything will be given. So one, you can find out that the activity, manufacturing or service, so we know. And also the type of the enterprise, micro or small, all the details will be given in the certificate along with the number. So in that case, we are liable under this section. And also if they don't give the certificate, at least if you take the number, that is Udyam registration number or MSME registration number, if you take the number also, no problem. So from the side, that is the MSME side, we can, from MSME side, we can verify that. We can verify. How we verify? So we don't have the certificate. We got the number only. Only the number we got. In such case, how to verify that? So there is one verification link here. I'll show you. See here. So this is the verification link. So this is here. We have here. Say here, Udyam registration, that give out that Udyam verify. So in this case, go to the capital. So in this case, even you don't give the certificate, you don't give the number also, then what to do? How do we know whether he is registered or not? Also whether he is a micro enterprise, small enterprise or medium enterprise. Then in that case, what we can verify this if they give the number. Even if you don't give the number also, in that case, what we have to do is, we have to take a declaration from him. So declaring that I am registered, so my number is so and so, my activity is so and so. It is not registered, I am not registered under the MSME Act. So if you do, and later he says, he cannot say, I am registered. That is why either take the certificate or take the number. With the help of number, we can verify the site, or we can take the declaration from him so that we not to face any future problem. So in this case, we will see. I have to give a number now. So we take the number. So if you take the number, it is from Haryana. There are many numbers. Okay. So in this case, we will take here simple. Give the Udyam registration number given and enter the capture code. Capture code, capitals D E B E F W. Give that number and then enter. So this is showing the, see, this is the number we entered. See, major activity services. So it is applicable, but you have to see the type of that one. See here, enterprise type, micro, all the years micro. So micro enterprise and micro enterprise, it is applicable. The second is applicable, and manufacturing services. So it is many activities, services. In this also given services, and NIC code is NIC 69. So 45, 46, 47 trader not applicable. So this is 69. So this is applicable. Like this, we can verify if we have the number. So we can take the number from them and verify with that, or take the certificate. So we will, and why all these things is, these details are to be entered in Tally, right? Then we will get the full report also, full report for all the creditors, whether they are registered or not, what is their number, medium or micro or small or medium enterprise, all the details will be displayed, that is introduced, updated in the Tally Prime release 4.1. So to do that, we know about this, then only we can make them. Okay, now I will give an example. So we take examples. See here. Here, see. For example, that net profit in 23-24 is 8 lakhs. Net profit is 8 lakhs. And the purchase amount is 2 lakhs. So if it is allowed, 8 lakhs, tax is to be paid on 8 lakhs. If it is disallowed, 2 lakhs will be added to 8 lakhs. And on total 10 lakhs, have to pay the tax plus interest also if applicable. Okay, you see here, this is the invoice date. This is the amount. Here, payment days as per the agreement and due date as per the agreement and due date as per the act. Due date as per the act and the actual amount paid, date of payment, whether it is allowed in which year, it is allowed in the same year or next year, and tax is to be paid on what is the amount paid to be paid as the tax. That is, if it is not allowed, not allowed, the both will be added. If it is allowed, only on the net profit, and what is the interest to be paid, number of days. Okay. See, first one. In all the cases, see, first 3 cases, 5151 is the invoice date, 2 lakhs. So there is no agreement days. There is no agreement days. So there is no due date as per the agreement. As per agreement, there is no due date because only 15 days as per the act. As per the agreement, there is no number of days. So there is no due date as per agreement. There is no agreement at all. This is for no agreement period payment, 15 days. So as per the act, the 15 days are given in the act, 45 days is also. So as per the act, so 15 plus 5 plus 15, 20. So January 20 is the due date as per the act. So amount is paid by 10th January. So here is 23-24 up to March 24. Okay. So 20 January is the due date. Amount is paid on 10th January. So before the due date, amount is paid. So these 2 lakhs will not be disallowed. It will be allowed in the same year, 23-24. So only on the 8 lakhs, we have to pay tax because of the actual profit, and interest is also not payable because paid within the due date. Next, second one, the same thing. Due date is 20 January. So it is paid on 25th March 24. It is paid within the financial year. So if it is paid within the financial year, it will not be disallowed. So it will be allowed in the same year, 23-24. This will be allowed, and only on 8 lakhs, we have to pay the income tax. But there is a delay. That is from 20 January, that is the due date. It is paid on 25th January. I'll show you one example. For one problem I will do. So in January, there are 11 days, plus February 29 days. This is a leap year. 29 days, February, March 25 days. Total will be 65 days. So 65 days interest he has to pay. So for first 30 days, interest will be calculated, compounded. Again 30 days, interest will be calculated, compounded, and then calculated for 5 days, total 65 days. So for 65 days, the interest is to be paid. The third one, the same thing, everything, due date, everything same, paid on 7/4. So here, due date is 20 January. So due date is 20 January. It is paid in the next financial year, 7th April. So after the due date, so due date is expired. So he has not paid within the financial year. So it is paid in the next financial year. That is why these 2 lakhs will be disallowed in 23-24. So he paid in the next financial year. So it will be allowed in the next financial year. 24-25, it will be allowed. In 23-24, it is disallowed. So added to the 8 lakhs. So the income tax will be paid on 10 lakhs. And interest is also to be paid from 20 January to 7th April. There is in the first financial year 71 days. On 7 days in the next financial year. Total interest will be paid on 78 days. And in this next one, the bill amount, due date, invoice date is 25th March. That is January, this is March as well. So in this case, you will see the due date. In this case, the due date is 15, there is no agreement. So 15 days means 9th April is the due date. So due date is occurring in the next financial year. So even if it is, we pay in the next financial year, if we pay within the due date, then there will be within the due date means there will be no interest or it will not be disallowed. You see, 9th April is the due date, but it is paid on 30th March 24. within the financial year as well as before the due date is paid. So this is allowed in the same financial year 23-24. It is allowed, and the tax is to be paid on 8 lakhs only. And eight lakhs, okay. And interest to be paid, nil. Interest to be paid is nil. Okay, interest is not to be paid. So in the second case, the due date is 9th April. It is paid in the next, it is paid within the financial year. Here, this is paid in the next financial year, but before the due date. Within the due date is paid. So the amount will be not disallowed. So it will be allowed in 23-24, and only tax is to be paid on 8 lakhs, and there is no interest also paid before the due date. And the next one is the same case, same due date is 9th April, but it is paid in 10. Okay, we take it plus 15th, we take up, for example, 15th. It is paid on 15th April. So in the next financial year, due date is up to 9th April. So if it is this is paid in the next financial year and also after the due date. So in this case, not paid within the due date. So it is paid in the next financial year. That is why this 2 lakhs will not be allowed. It will be disallowed. So 8 lakhs plus 10 lakh, 8 lakhs plus 2 lakhs. So tax is to be paid, income tax is to be paid on 10 lakhs this year, and this will be allowed in because it is paid in the next financial year. So it is paid in the next financial year. We take it as 10th only, we will take up the class. I have to change that also. And 24-25 it is paid in the next financial year. So 24-25 it will be allowed that time in the next financial year. And here the delay is 1 day after the due date. So interest is paid only for 1 day. Okay, this is without agreement. If there is agreement, the maximum time allowed is 45 days. Agreement period is less than that, that is to be taken. If it is more than the 45 days, maximum is 45. Here, 2 examples. So, 1st day of January, 2 lakhs, 30 days. So, 30 days of grace, days of credit. Here, nothing is there. Due date is not there. Here, agreement period is 30 days. So, the due date will be 1st January means plus 30 means 31st January in both the cases. 31st January, both the cases. 31st January, both the cases. Okay, 31st January, both the cases. As per the agreement, as per 30 days, the agreement, as per the agreement, this is the due date. But in the case of the act also, maximum 45 days. So if it is 30 days, the 30 days to be taken, not 45 days. If it is more than 45 days. So less than 45 days means this credit period is to be taken. 30 days means here, as per the act also, the due date is the same. Okay, in this case, the actual amount is paid on 25th March. 25th March. 25th March means it is January, not 31st January. Yeah, 31st January. 25th January. Okay, here. So 31st January is the due date. The amount is paid by here. Here. So the due date is 31st January. So it is paid on 25th January. That is before even the next financial year, it is paid in the same financial year. So it is 31st January 24 within the same financial year before the due date is paid. So this is not disallowed. So it is allowed in the same year. Income tax is paid on 8 lakhs only. So paid before the due date. So there will be no tax and no interest at all before the due date is paid. And in this case, second one, the same case, due date as per the agreement, and due date as per the act also, same 31st January, but it is paid on 2nd April. 2nd April. 2nd April means paid in the next financial year as well as due date passed. Due date passed. So after the due date it is paid. So then in that case, in this year, it is not allowed. So it is disallowed means, so it will be allowed in the paid in the next financial year. So it is to be allowed in the next financial year 24-25. In this year, tax is to be paid 8 lakhs plus 2 lakhs on 10 lakhs, tax is to be paid. So here the delay is from 31st January to 2nd April. So in the last year, it is 60 days, and in this year, in the April, 2 days. Total on 62 days, total on 62 days, the tax, interest is to be paid. Sorry, sir, to March, sir. It's a mistake. So 54 days. The first one is okay. Actually, the first they are wrong. Sorry, sir. So 25th March it is paid. That means within the financial year it is paid. 25th March means up to 31st is the financial year. So it is paid within the financial year, but after the due date. So it is paid within the financial year. So 2 lakhs is allowed, 8 lakhs is to be paid, but the duration is 54 lakhs. The delay is to 54 days. So 54 days we have to pay interest. Is a mistake. Is March. So within the financial year. Here it is paid in the next financial year after the due date. Even in the next financial year, if it is paid before the due date, it will be allowed. Here it is not allowed. So allowed in 24-25, tax is to be paid on 10 lakhs and is the interest payable. And in these two cases, all the cases, the bill amount date is invoice date 20th March. That is end of the month. That is last month of the year. So here, in this case, amount is 2 lakhs. Okay. Amount is 2 lakhs and the period is in these two cases, the period of agreement period is 45 days. So the maximum 45 days as per the agreement, the due date is March, then 5th May will be the due date as per the agreement. As per the act also 45 days is allowed. That is the maximum limit. So as per the act also, the due date is 5th May only. So in this case, it is paid on 25th May. So in the next financial year, it is paid. Next financial, it is paid. It is paid in the next financial after the due date. Even if it is paid by 5th May, then it will not be disallowed, it will be allowed. But after that next financial year and after the due date it is paid, that is why this is disallowed. So on 10 lakhs, we have to pay tax and it is paid in the next financial year, 24-25, that will be allowed as deduction. And for the delay payment, for the delay is 20 days. So interest will be paid for 20 days. And in this case, second one, the same 5th May is the due date in the next financial year, but here it is paid on 4th May. That is in the next financial year, but before the due date it is paid. So this will be allowed in the same year, 23-24, and 8 lakhs only we have to pay income tax, and there will be no interest. And the next one also, next one here today, next one it is 60 days is the credit period. Credit period is 60 days. So as per the agreement, the due date is 19th May. As per the agreement, the due date is 19th May. But as per the act, 19 days, 60 days is not allowed. Only 45 days like this. So 45 days means this will be the same due date. As per the act, due date will be the same 45 days. 60 days only for agreement. Agreement it is 19, but it is not allowed by the act. The act allows only 45 days. And it is paid on 1st May. So the due date is 5th May in the next financial year. Still it is paid in the next financial year, but before the due date. So this is not disallowed. It will be allowed in the same year and tax is paid on 8 lakhs only. And there will be no interest because paid in the year before the due date. This one, when it is 5th May, paid on 10th May. That means the next financial year plus paid after the due date. In this case, this is not allowed. So it is disallowed. It is allowed in the next financial year, 24-25, and it is added to 8 lakhs and 10 lakhs is the amount we have to pay income tax. And the delayed payment is 5 days after the due date. 5 days is the delay. So for 5 days, we have to pay interest. So this is about the final. This is about section. What is the PH relating to the payment to micro and small enterprises? Medium enterprises are omitted. So payment to micro and small enterprises, we have to pay the amount related to that as per the act, then it will be the expense or purchase amount will be allowed. Otherwise, it will be disallowed and added to the profit. It will be allowed in the next financial year when it is paid. This is about this one. Please, this is very, very important. You watch this video, you can't understand the confusion. Once or twice or thrice, you watch the video and learn everything perfectly. And watch it, everyone. There are many people just watching the videos, but they're not subscribing. Please, everyone, subscribe to the video and click the bell icon, select all. You will get notification for all the videos which I upload. And every video, including this, watch every video till the end. And if it is good, like that, because if you like the video, it will be sent to many people by YouTube. So that those people also can. Okay, this is about this one. So this is very important for everyone. And this is very important for the next latest release 4.1 also. That we will take up later. Okay. And we will meet in the next video. All the best.